Alright, we should be live, chat. We should be live, chat. Hopefully we live. Let's check. Okay, yep. Let's get it. I think I need to change the name though, because it's on the presets. So let me drop this. And yeah, hold on, chat. This definitely not the way it's supposed to be. Hold on. Damn, I can't even change it. See if I can change it in the studio. Hold on. Cause I don't know why it did that. I don't know why I did that, chat. So give me 1 second while I do this real quick. But on the other note, how's everybody doing? Everybody doing good? How's everybody's weekend? And how was everybody's trading last week? Let's talk about that. How was everybody's trading? Upload thumbnail. Oh shit. Hold on. Let me fix this real quick. Damn. Well, I guess I'll change the thumbnail when it's finished, because that's not the right one. All right, chat. So let's go back to where we was at. Lito, I'm having a hard time mentally with the trades, letting the trades go through. I keep canceling in the red. Come on now. Well, first, let's talk about this wizard wrist. Let's talk about first, did you watch my last video? Because the last video that I just made was actually a real good video that talk about like trader psychology. So let me just show y'all real quick, so that y'all can kind of see what I'm talking about. But hold on, let me pull it up. All right, so if y'all come, hold on. All right, so let's come here real quick. All right, so first, watch this video right here. This was a call that I did with my students, and I just put it on my YouTube channel because it was such a good call. They liked it a lot, and yeah, it was a real good call. But it was a real in-depth psychology call. Like I said, I did this with all of my students, and it kind of talks about like your belief as a trader. So your belief as a trader is one of those things where, like, if you don't believe prices, like if you don't trust your system, if you don't trust what you got going on, your strategy, that's going to be a determining factor between you holding your trades and you closing your trades early, because you don't believe in it, right? So when we speak on the topic belief, it's like you have to have enough data, you have to have enough concrete evidence, you have to have enough back testing to understand that, okay, this actually works. Where most people go wrong in trading is like they are dibbling and dabbling between this strategy, they dibbling and dabbling between this strategy, and they dibbling and dabbling between this strategy, right? So think about it. Y'all watching me on YouTube right now, y'all watching the live stream. However, you probably watched 3 other creators' YouTube videos today, right? So the fact that you watched all of those different people puts all of these different type of thoughts, all these different type of terminology, all these different type of strategies inside of your brain. So now you can determine whether the fact should you close at the negative 61.8 based off of the fibs, the negative 27, or should you close because, you know, the trader that you watch says, oh, always go for a 2-to-1 risk to reward ratio, and that's their strategy. So now you like, oh, well, I'm in drawdown. I don't understand structure because I learned from this creator that taught me fair value gaps and it may cross this. Then it's like, well, of course you're gonna close it because you don't really believe in the system enough. So that's where a lot of people go wrong, is because they don't really have that set foundation of, okay, this is the strategy, this is what I'm going to stick with. I have to, like, once I abide by this strategy, I'll know when the strategy fails. I'll know when I should get out of the market. I'll know when all of these things are happening to cause me to, overtrade, whatever the case may be, right? So it's really important that you guys really understand the concept of mastering your strategy and then begin to working on your mindset. And that goes hand in hand with what I was talking about in that YouTube video, beliefs. Because without beliefs, without you believing that your strategy works, of course you're going to close and draw down because you like, well, shit, I don't even know if this is going to work out. Think about it like this. It's like, let me think of a real life analogy. Let's just say that you don't know the weather outside, and you on the fence of, is it gonna rain or is it going to be sunny, right? So if you dressed for it being sunny, but you so worried about it raining because you don't know, then you're going to, like, either one, you're not gonna go outside, or two, you're gonna dress for the rain. And if you dress for the rain, you're gonna have on rain boots and a raincoat, and then you're gonna look ugly, right? So then it's like, well, why would I, like, if I don't trust the news, or if I don't trust in the weather being sunny, then how could I ever be able to actually just like walk through, and I don't even know if that's a good analogy, but how could I ever be able to walk in the sense of it being sunny? How could I dress for it to be sunny outside? So hopefully that makes sense, because that wasn't the best analogy, but hopefully y'all get what I'm saying, right? So you just gotta have that level of belief. That's really all it boiled down to, is you gotta believe in your strategy enough, and that's how you are able to actually focus on, like, not closing your trades or letting them play out. See, me, I trade structure. So since I trade structure, if my structure is not invalidated, then I know that the move is still present. If I didn't understand structure, then I wouldn't know how to be able to, like, understand if my move is wrong, so forth and so on, right? So I kind of go through that on the chart so y'all can kind of get a visual understanding of what that looks like, right? So let me move my face out the screen, and then we'll go over that, right? So you said, myself is getting better at that. Good. I went through this. Good. Yes, you're right. I'm taking in too much content. 100%. Mike. Oh, shoot. My bad, Zoom people. Hold on. My bad, Zoom. I be forgetting, y'all. Hold on. Which one is it? This one. All right. My bad, Zoom. All right. So, like I was saying though, somebody said, "Are you able to do an updated video on backtesting?" I mean, I can, but I mean, honestly, it's kind of like, it's all like really the same. But we could talk about that today. So I did some backtesting over the weekend, and just refining things, and just building, like, sometimes as a trader, you just got to build your confidence back up, because it's just like, I play golf, right? So in the terms of golf, you don't just go and play 18 holes all the time, because you'll get to a point where you play 18 holes, and then you might get to a tee box and you might mess up on your swing, and you're like, damn, like, I got to get back to the drawing board because, like, my swing is a little off this round. So understanding that my swing is off this round, I got to get back to the drawing board. So what do I need to do? I need to go to the practice range and hit a few balls, and understand, like, all right, since I got to get back to the basics, so I need to go back to my fundamentals. I need to go back to understanding, okay, this is how I hit my driver, this is how I hit my 3-wood, this is how I hit my irons. So same concept in trading. It's like, go back to your basics, okay? Practicing your breaks and retests, practicing defining your entries and getting better entry, practice getting out your exits, understanding where your exits are at, so forth and so on. So understand those concepts will go a long way, and that's how you pretty much ultimately backtest. But like, let me see if I actually got the backtest chart up from last week. Hold on, I think it's in the other browser. Yeah, I actually do got it. Let me me show y'all real quick. All right, so look, this was just like some back test sessions that I did over the weekend, but just understanding like the strategy and understanding like, okay, why are these moves playing out the way that they playing out? What is the reason behind them? And when you understand the reason behind them, then it's like, okay, now I can take advantage of. My bad, y'all said my volume real low. Hopefully this ain't too loud. But like, how can I take advantage of these moves? So all of these were moves that I was backtesting this weekend. Like, how could I catch this move? 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 And understanding like what's the reasons behind those and why those moves played out, and then why did certain moves fail. Like this one. This one was a move that only worked out on minor structure. This minor structure only played out before it fell to the floor again. So understanding why that played out the way it played out. And really the answer is ultimately structure, but it goes back to, you know, just getting back to the basics, because this is how you also boost your confidence as a trader. Like going back and seeing your strategy work out time and time and time and time again, and taking note of that, taking notes of okay, this is what's been working these last couple months. This is what has been failing these last couple months. This is what I need to work on these last couple months, because ultimately the market is everlasting changing. You know, it's one of those things where even though like your strategy is going to be mainly the same, but sometimes you got to adapt to the conditions. Like for instance, on gold, I know that right now in the current month that we in, gold is fluctuating anywhere between 150 and 200 pips in a session range, right? So I know that if the average pip range is 150 to 200 pips in a range, I mean in that session, then I shouldn't be aiming to catch, you know, 300-400 pips on one particular move in one particular session, because that's not what gold is giving me right now. So going back and back testing the most recent, you know, couple months and the last couple weeks, so forth and so on, you can kind of get a feel for, okay, this is how I need to adapt going into these next couple weeks, because I understand that I can't be catching the big moves. Even though I might want to catch the swings, the gold has been in, you know, a big consolidation. So how can I try to catch swings when, you know, it's in consolidation? So being mindful of that. So I can make a video on that, but that's just like a brief rundown on how I backtest and what I'm overall looking for. So hopefully that makes sense. Do that make sense to y'all? Said my volume is low. Hopefully I fixed it. Can we look at news? Yeah, we can look at news. All right, you say, yeah, that makes sense. All right, cool. All right, so news this week. Monday, no red folder news. Tuesday, no red folder news. All right, so Wednesday we got PPI, 7:30, and then CPI on Thursday. Okay, we got a fun week. We got unemployment claims and CPI on Thursday. That's gonna be a fun week. And then and that's 9/11, and then GDP for GBP pairs, and then consumer sentiment and inflation expectations. All right, so Monday and Tuesday probably won't present the biggest moves. So this is one of those things where, like, later on in the week, the moves begin to play out. So you understand this concept as well. Like, you're not looking really to get a home run at the beginning of the week. Why? Because there is no real news to push it. Like when you think about a home run, it's like literally what it sounds like, a home run where you catch a big trade. Most big trades happen during news events, right? So understanding that, you know, there's no main news events these Mondays and Tuesdays. These will be pretty chill days. Like, not saying that they ain't gonna be the moves, but I don't expect any huge moves. Like when we think about last week, this was a huge move right here. 7:30, price pushed up 500 pips, right? So that's like a home run hit, right? You catch that move, you catch 500 pips. That's beautiful. Now throughout the regular week, you might get moves like, you know, like this during, oh damn, I don't even got the sessions on here, but the sessions, if you look at the time stamps, like 8 o'clock session, New York session, you know, 300 pips in that range, but it wasn't really like a big news push like the way it did here, right? So understanding that concept, but like I said, we only got PPI starting on Wednesday. So that's what we have this week for news. And then let's go ahead and dive into our raw charts. So if you are inside of the free Telegram chat, then you know we talked about a few things this week, but most importantly, this right here. This is a little jokey joke that we had inside of the Telegram chat. It's about locking in. Make sure that y'all using y'all weekends to backtest, just like I was telling y'all I was backtesting this weekend. Study y'all craft. Like, this is really an art, right? So when you understand that it's an art, it's like you treat it different. You really treat it like very different. And the moment that you treat this as an art and not like, oh, I have to make money, then, you know, in my opinion, it's a lot easier, because now you trade into trade like the actual structure of the chart, the way price is formulating, like looking at it as an art versus actually like, oh, well, I'm just trying to catch this money play. Most people think about it just, oh, I'm trying to make money, and not really trying to catch moves. So approach it from that, try that out and see how that works for y'all. All right. So going back to the Telegram note, we had talked about this move. I broke this down. I did a breakdown on NFP and why the price played out the way it played out. So originally I was looking for this move right here. I put it on the other chart, but I was looking for this move right here originally for sales. So this is like a trend line break and retest I was looking for. This ultimately failed. And like I said, I went over it in the free Telegram chat. So I'm not going to go over it in too much in depth, because I already went over it in the Telegram chat. And if you want to watch that, just make sure you're in the Telegram chat. The link will be in the description. Currently, hold on. Actually, I'll just put it in the chat, because it's not, I don't got the right, I don't have the right like stuff on right now, because I didn't do it from the regular like live stream that I usually do it from. So let me find a link real quick, and I'll put that in there in the chat so that y'all can have that. And it's just a free, free trading community where I go over all of the stuff. I give y'all markups. Y'all can learn from it. And then if y'all, the other people that's in there, like the people that want to do the signals is free as well. All of that directions is inside of the Telegram chat, right? So we'll go over, we'll go over that after we get through the charts, right? So where we are at on gold right now, right? Somebody said pin it. Okay. All right, it's pinned at the top, so y'all can see it. So currently where we are at on gold. If you've been on these calls for a long time, you know that we've been talking about gold like in this pennant on the daily time frame. Like, we've been talking about this. We have this fib on here, and we mentioned that, like, okay, once we broke out of this consolidation, this little box right here, that will be our determining factor, like what was about to happen next. But we had been consolidating in that area for a long time, right? We finally broke out of that area. So we had this impulse push, we had this correction, and then we got this continuation. This continuation took a longer time to actually play out, because we had all of this consolidation. But when you look at it, ultimately, this is a bullish pattern, right? This is a bullish pennant. So if you look at it as such, it's a bullish pennant. This is a continuation pattern to go to the upside. So we understand that this continuation pattern, we could expect the market to give us a continuation, right? So based off of us breaking that level these last couple days, that's a sign that the market wants to continue to go bullish. So if we look at this weekly candle, this closed with a lot of bullish momentum. So price is very bullish inside of the market right now on gold, right? Going down to the daily, pretty much telling us the same exact thing. H4. Now, this is a sign that we have right here that we could potentially see a pullback. Why? Because we're starting to see some divergence on H4. This means that we can have a decent sized pullback, because the divergence we've been having the last couple of weeks been on minor structure, and they've kind of been getting disrespected, right? So We starting to see some divergence form. Y'all my students, y'all know what y'all waiting on. But everybody else, just like this is divergence. You want to wait for this to finish diverging before you look to take sales, but you got to break structure first. So currently, like I said, that is how we're looking on H4. We see that we broke this previous high. So this is an area, this is my first area of interest that I'm looking at. We broke this high. This got an impulse breaker structure. What should we expect? We expect for price to come back to correct itself and then continue on in the upwards direction, right? So impulse correction continuation, right? So from there, let's turn our annotations back on. We can get rid of this. What day was this that I actually put this on here? That was the first. Okay, so actually, this is where we was at last Sunday. Yeah, this was where we was at last Sunday. And I said we could look for this break and retest. This was that divergence that got disrespected. Price ended up making a new high point, and then like I told y'all, like if this broke and retested, we continue up. It never retested, but it still got our push to the upside. Now, the high that I mentioned was this high right here, right? And then going back to H1, we can see that we have this trend line here as such. This trend line is stating that every time price hits the trend line, it bounce. So if price was to ever make its way to this trend line again, we could potentially expect a bounce, right? Now, this is where structure is super important, guys. So even though I have divergence and I am looking for the market to potentially turn around, the market is still screaming that it is bullish. So when you think about an uptrend, we have higher highs and higher lows, right? Until this structure is invalidated, we will continue to look for buys. Now, I know a lot of people have been saying like, oh, well, gold is at an all-time high. I'm not trading it. And it's like, if you think like that, then you really don't understand structure, because it's still forming an uptrend structure. So therefore, you can continue to look for it to continue up until it gives you validity that it no longer wants to go up, which will be ultimately a break of structure. So currently in the structure that we are in right now, we can look, and I'm gonna just draw so I identify my structure with dots. This is how I identify my higher highs and my higher lows. So this is my current 1 hour structure. My last higher low point was right here, right? So coming here, I'm gonna label this as a breaker structure. So anything that breaks underneath this area, retest, then I'll look for a sell off. But until then, I don't really I won't look for sales on this particular time frame, on H1 time frame, because the structure has not broken. Its structure is not invalidated, right? So I would need structure to invalidate for me to actually look for sales. Now, dropping down to my 30-minute time frame, I can see that price is pretty much giving me the same story. We're still forming higher highs and higher lows. M15 is kind of telling me the same story as well. We're still forming higher highs and higher lows. And on M15, we can kind of get away with this being our breaker structure, because this is kind of like our last higher low. You could call it 5-minute structure, but either way, the concept is still the same. So if we look at it from this perspective of this being a low, this being a high, this being a higher low, this being a higher high, this being a higher low, this being a higher high, this is where on minor structure, if we break beneath this area, then we can look for the market to potentially pull back. So what that will look like is such: break, retest, and then sell it down. Now remember, I told y'all, watch price at this trend line. So we don't know if price is going to bounce from this trend line. So it can break underneath this retest and then bounce at this trend line and push up. That's definitely an option. So we have to be mindful that when we trade minor structure is not the end all be all. Minor structure is just, minor structure is quick moves, lower time frame, scalps, whatever the case may be. You're not looking to trade, big moves off of the lower time frames. You trade the big moves off of the higher time frames, right? So with that being said, we will not look for sales until we break underneath here. So you'll put note, minor structure, sales once we break and retest under here. Otherwise, keep buying. Right? Now, with this being said, remember our H1 structure is still this. So we can put a fib on here really from point A to point B. This, our 23.6 is at this high that it broke. 38.2 is just under that breaker structure. If it breaks under that breaker structure, think about it. If it breaks under this 23.6 and it breaks the structure, more than likely it's going to at least retrace to 38 or the 50%. That will be a minor structure sell-off, right? Which will be this little level of resistance right here. Now, the deeper this pulls back, then, you know, it kind of gives you a sign that, all right, we can reach higher targets, but it also gives you a sign that, okay, deeper, we could eventually break this breaker structure. But we don't know if this fib is invalid until we break that structure. So that's super important. Now, based off of where we at, remember our higher time frame structure fib, we are looking for a price, and I talked about this inside of my free Telegram chat as well. This negative 27 is the main target. So if I go back to the Telegram chat, I've been talking about this area here. The major structure target is 3648-ish area. So this negative 27 TP is at this 3648-ish area. So that's like the main target. Now, the determining factor is for us to decide if this minor structure is going to maintain so we can continue to print new higher highs and higher lows and potentially get up to that 3648 area, or will we have a minor structure shift in the trend to give us a deeper pullback on our higher time frames, which could be, you know, back to this high that we broke here, and then give us another push to go to that negative 27 take profit. So that's what we will, you know, decipher on our lower time frames, and that's what I do every single week. Right? Every time y'all hop on these calls, I'm looking at the right now money. I'm looking at what is price telling me right now, so I can trade in between. You know, like if I can understand what's happening right now, I can trade in between the major structure moves, because we don't know when this is going to hit 3648, right? We don't know when it's going to do that. Literally, price could pull all the way back here, retrace, and then go up. This could be weeks surpassing before we get there. So I'm not going to be so fixated and so glued to 3648 because that's a major structure move. Think about it. If I was hooked to 3648 since we had a pullback back in May, I would damn near be holding this trade for 6 months. And it's like, well, not 6 months, 4 months, right? So 4 months worth of like waiting for this, and it still ain't even hit negative 27. So we still got some time. So like, that's why I always show y'all like the minor structure moves, and I also show y'all the major structure moves so y'all can trade in between price and take advantage of the moves. Now, one thing that I want y'all to understand as well is that, of course, the minor structures, you know, they can be easily broken, especially when you get to like M5, M1. Those also can be violated, you know, a lot easier. But at the same time, it's like if you in the flow with the major structure trends, then you can take advantage of the minor structures, right? So based off of all of that, I say all of that to say that where we are right now, I'll be expecting the price to pull back to at least bare minimum this high point right here that previously broke. So I'll be looking for a pullback, something like this. Price to pull back. I don't like that one. Let me find a better one. Like this. And then we could potentially see a continuation. If we maintain this structure, so if we maintain this structure, we will continue to go up, right? So bare minimum, we will go and make a new high. But if we disrespect this structure, which is this note here, then we will break underneath, retest, and then we will sell it down. Now, how far we sell it down will be determined on, you know, our fib structure once we get that, but we don't have that right now, so we can't determine that. So all we can say is that this will, you know, push down potentially to this trend line or this level of resistance, right? That's as further as we can do it. But this is the right now money. This is like what is price happening right now. And like for anybody that's brand spanking new to this call, if you go back and just study all of the calls that I've been doing for the the whole year, all of these are ghost patterns. Like all of these have been projections when price wasn't like actually formulated. you can see all of the projections that I do, majority of the time they play out. Like all of these have been playing out for the most part, right? So when you think about that, this is like me understanding the right now money, right? So if I understand the right now money, I can take advantage of the moves right now. Some of y'all, look too far ahead, right? Sometimes y'all look too far ahead based off of higher time frame structures, and some of y'all try to trade the minor structures too much. So you gotta have a happy balance, and that's why I'm explaining everything in the way that I'm explaining it, so you can understand that I'm not just looking for the scalps, and I'm not just looking for the swings. I'm looking for the data between both of those combined, so I can come up with a concrete decision on, okay, what am I about to do next based off of the moves that the market are currently giving me. And that's how you can trade in between, big moves and small moves, right? So this is the ghost pattern that I have. I'm gonna put otherwise if price maintains structure, keep buying. Oops. Keep buying. Right. So this is a note that I'll have. I'll update you guys inside the Telegram chat once we get some more data throughout the week, right? Katrell said, "Shut up! I never noticed that." OMG, that's good. I'm weak. Said definitely. Jolly said definitely having a problem with that. It's all about practice, just like with anything. Gotta get the chart hours, and that's why I tell my students all the time, like, y'all mark up every single week. And like even me doing these calls, like even though I'm helping y'all like I do this in help of myself, because it's like it holds me accountable to make sure I do my markups every single week. Because some days, like the Broncos just got done playing, and it's like, well, I could have skipped out on my markups and watched the game. But instead, it's like, okay, I tuned in, I did what I was supposed to do. And you got to make sure you're doing your markups week in and week out. And then also, like, you got to do your markups throughout the week. If y'all notice, a lot of these markups that I give last for a couple of days, and then it's time to reanalyze. It's time to decipher like what's about to happen next, because there's new data being formed. So always let the data tell you what's about to happen next. Like, never let your feelings, never let your emotions, never let what somebody else has, going on tell you, like, make you have decisions or whatever the case may be. You got to let the data tell you that. The data is the king in this game, right? So hopefully everybody understands that. If anybody has any questions, just drop it inside of the chat. And then, like I said, this is what I have for gold. And then let's go over NASDAQ. Last week we were here. So we were looking for price we had broke this little lower high point here, and I was looking for a potential buy up if we could break above and retest to continue to go higher. Obviously, we did not get a break and retest, so that means no retest, no entry, right? So this is why it's important to have two alternatives. And I said that, well, if we do not get this break and retest for this buy, if price breaks underneath here and retest, then we will look for a sell. What do we get? We got a break and retest under here, and then we sold that down, right? So price had a massive sell-off, and then we had this level of support that was being maintained, and then we got this huge buy up, right? So this really just came and retested this blue trend line, as y'all can see. So this goes to a higher time frame, and really it should be green because it's the H4, but we had a break. So this is why it's important to understand structure. H4 structure is still being maintained, even though the lower time frames got broken. The higher time frame said that we had a brand new impulse that broke structure. We had this correction, and then we had somewhat of another continuation. Then we had another correction that came back to retest this counter trend line, and then we got another continuation. So what can we expect? We can expect price to continue to push up based off of H4. This H4 structure is still being maintained, still being validated, so we can expect, based off of H4, price to continue, right? Now let's go to the higher time frame just to take an overall look. On a weekly, we had some wick exhaustion, letting us know that, you know, sellers were trying to push price down, but ultimately they failed to push price down and actually close. And then that was that week of August 18th. And then this week of September 1st, we had a lot of wick exhaustion, but we closed bullish. On the daily, this is where, like, this is why I say trading is an art, because like you pay attention to the signs and you pay attention to the data that will tell you like the context clues, right? So obviously we are in a clear uptrend on this move. What does the uptrend consist of? Higher highs and higher lows, right? So higher low, higher low, higher high, higher high. So what is this doing here? This is forming a high, higher low, higher high, and then this is forming potential higher low points. Because why? Price is failing to break this previous higher low point, which means that structure is being maintained. So if structure is being maintained, then we can expect for price to go and create a new high point. So this is our last high point right here. We can expect price to continue to make a new high. So that's where the term impulse, correction, continuation comes from. It literally is just structure forming higher highs and higher lows. Like, don't overcomplicate it, because it's literally like, in a nutshell, a uptrend or a downtrend. Impulse, correction, continuation, right? Now, understanding that based off of the daily time frame, we can see that this kind of gave us a W pattern. My students know about that. This double bottom. This is a sign that we continue to push up. On H4, like I mentioned before, we had our structure being maintained. This is why we still have this fib. And then we are maintaining. We had a 61.8 retrace. And then currently where we are at, we can draw another trend line as such. This broke and retested this trend line perfectly. Beautiful. Now, one thing we can take note of, though, is that we are sitting at this level of resistance. So this level of resistance is something that I want to be mindful of, because the story here is every time that price came to this resistance, what did it do? It dropped. It dropped. This one time it broke through, and then it kind of maintained at the level of support. But then what did it do? It dropped. It dropped. So now we at this area. We need to determine, is price going to respect it and potentially drop again, or if we break through, settle as support again, then we know we're going to continue to push up. All right. So with that, like, understanding that gives us indication what we're about to do on our smaller time frames, right? Now, going down to H1, you can see these black dots were my H1 structure. So I can kind of illustrate that for y'all. Lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. This last lower high point got broken. This was a breaker structure on the H1 time frame. You can see that we had a brand new impulse. This was our correction. What can we expect out of that? A continuation, right? So on H1, I can now put my fib from point A to point B to see where my H1 structure is telling me how far price should go based off our Fibonacci, right? So we understand that concept. We had a 38.2 retrace on our H1 fib, right? Somebody said, can I turn my mic up a little bit? Shit, it is turned up. You might just have to turn your volume up, or honestly, I don't think I've been talking that loud, but I'll just move my mic just a little bit in front of my face so that maybe that's a little bit better. Hopefully you can hear it a little bit better. But overall, this H1 38.2 retrace, and we had a good bounce. And then, like I said, we're sitting at this zone right now. So going down to our smaller time frames, we can see that on our M15, we had this little breaker structure here. This was a small impulse. This can be one correction before giving us a continuation to the downside. This is a possibility, but mind you, this is M15 that's breaking. Every other structure, H1, H4, and a daily, is telling us bullish, right? So it's telling us that we are still continuing to buy. So we can't just let the M15 alone, like, tell us that, oh, we gonna melt. You know what I'm saying? There's a possibility, but it's less likely to happen in regards to price continuing. But what I can foresee happening is price giving us a pullback. And then if like this is honestly what I can foresee happening. I can see this pulling back, failing to make a new low. So this is our low down here, failing to make a new low, and then continue to go up. So like most people will try to sell. Like most people honestly will sell from right here, because I mean it ain't a bad area to sell from. But most people will sell from this area. They will be in sales. Price will let them know like, okay, sales is failing. And then instead of closing the trade when price is failing to make a new low, they will hold on to this trade and it end up hitting a stop loss. So it's really about understanding like what's your structure that you in. You know what I'm saying? And I wish I can go in depth about that, but it's like that's like a whole video lesson in itself. And that's, you know, we almost at 8 o'clock, so we almost at our hour. But maybe I'll do a YouTube video for that. But yeah, so currently, like I said, I can see this pulling back. Let me look for something real quick. I think I like this one right here. So a little pullback like such. And then I want to watch price in this little area right here, this little level of resistance. Watch price there to see if we respect. If not, like if we break underneath here, more than likely we will continue to go down. Because remember, this is a fib structure. Yeah, so that negative 27 TP, that's definitely an option. So what tool you use for the dots? I use the highlighter tool. So the same thing that I'm using to draw, I use it for dots, but I just click it once instead of like tracing. But all right, so this is what I'm looking for that on NAS. And then if we break above these high points here, then I'll be looking for price to continue to make new highs, hit this negative 27, and potentially our overall target is this major structure negative 27. So this main target, just put that there. But you know, the main target is on the higher time frame, so we don't know how long that's going to take to get there. So 24,340-ish area, that's what I'm looking for. Honestly, I don't know if it's gonna happen this week, but I mean, we do got CPI on Thursday, so that'll be, you know, that might be the day that we actually see like a huge push. But right now, I don't see anything pushing it all the way up there just quite yet. And let me adjust these zones real quick. All right, cool. So looking for a little minor pullback on NAS, and then we'll watch price here. See if we reject for possible buys. That'll be what I'm looking for. I'll set an alert there. Right here, watch price here. So alerts are your best friends. That way you don't gotta stare at the charts like a maniac. All right, so that's what I have for NASDAQ right now. Looking for a minor pullback, then we'll watch price in this area and see how, you know, the behavior, if we get some bullish price action signals, or will we get a lot of bearish momentum. So like, of course, we're not just blindly buying from this area. We need to see, like, this is why it's important to backtest too. Because like when you think about it, like if you go back and backtest, then this is what gives you the confidence to really like know what your play is. Because if you backtest it and you know, all right, I'm looking for price to come back to this area, but I backtested to see that when the candles get here, if it's a lot of bearish momentum, more than likely it's not going to stop and buyers haven't stepped in, so we shouldn't be looking for buys. if you backtest that enough and you have complete confidence, and then it's like, okay, well, what do I need to see for price to continue to push up? Well, I need to see certain type of candlesticks. Well, what candlesticks do I need to see? Well, that's why you backtest and see which ones are the ones that actually give you a push. And that's what I talk about, like, with my students. My students know, like, the bullish and bearish variations, like, those tell you if there's buyers in the market, if there's sellers in the side of the market. So you understand that it's like, okay, I know that buyers are stepping in because I got this candlestick pattern. I got this price action signal to let me know that there are buyers in the market. But if I don't understand when buyers are in the market or when sellers in the market, and I'm just looking for a random break and retest, then how could I ever know that the break and retest is valid, right? So, like, backtest. Make sure y'all study it, right? You said, so on a 1 hour fib, you will enter off a 15-minute bullish or bearish price action. Yeah, possibly, but I'm not just entering off the first, bullish price action signal I see. It needs to be in the area where it makes sense, right? It needs to be in the area where I should be looking for buys, because I can get a bullish price action signal right here in the middle of no man's land, and then it just, completely fall to the floor. So when I'm looking for those bullish or bearish price action signals, depending on if I'm buying or selling, I'm looking at them for areas that make sense. Here, this is a area that makes sense for a buy. Why? Because it was a previous level of resistance, meaning that if it comes back here and respects it, it will act as a level of support. And also you can see from here, we had a little consolidation and then we had a push. So what makes me think that if price comes here and it respects it like it did here, that we won't have another push up from this area? And then if you pay attention to the context clues, you can see certain candlestick patterns let us know that it was about to push up. All right, so y'all take that and you put that in y'all notebooks so that y'all can, extract money from these markets, right? But all right, so this is what I have on NASDAQ. And I honestly need to clean this chart up a little bit because it's a little bit messy. But overall, y'all get the gist of it, right? Hopefully that makes sense. If y'all got any questions, put them in the chat. And then last but not least, we can go over US 30. You said, Deanna said, I have a 1 hour trend line right there on NAS. Where is right there? You talking about from the bottom side?
That one right there, that trend line you have, I have it from the August 20th going up to where we are right now. It's a dip.
August 20th. Oh, wait. August 20th.
Go down to where you have that trend line right there. Yep. And just pull it down to the bottom.
Pull it down to the bottom.
The other way.
This way?
Yeah, pull the left side down to August 20th. Yep. There you go. Keep going down. Well, you gotta shift it. Go down. So bring it down to that.
This.
Yep.
Okay. And then you saying where? You got it like up here? Like this?
It's right to where you have the zero on the fib. It's a break and retest right there is what I have.
From the 20th. Oh, so from here, this one. Okay. I see what you're saying. So you're saying you got your trend line from this point to this point and then drag it into the future. Gotcha. All right, yeah, I can see that. But overall, the thing about this though is that we still in a bullish structure, so we always got to be mindful. Because even though this could definitely like retest this trend line and fall, but we won't expect it, just to fall to the floor off that trend line breaking retest based off of the structure that we in. So just keep in mind that even though you got that trend line there, it's still possible, like based off of the structure alone, we can continue to make new higher highs and higher lows. Make sense?
Yep, thank you.
All right, perfect. All right, so now last but not least, US 30. Where was we at last week? We were here. So we were looking for price to potentially retest this trend line and then buy up to this zone. As you can see here, this did not respect this trend line, and then we fell a little bit deeper than anticipated, right? And then we created new lows, and then we maintained this 61.8 level, and then currently where we are at now, we have kind of walked through all of this. So on a weekly time frame, still bullish. We broke above these highs, closed above those highs, letting us know that we're bullish. Daily, pretty much the same thing. H4, we've been in some consolidation for this last kind of week. We kind of been floating in between this little box. We have yet to break out of this consolidation. So right now, like when you trade this, you trade it to the consolidation. Like you don't just assume that we're gonna break up and come here. So when you get to these areas, these levels of resistance, you look to take profit. Why? Because the story here is that every time price comes to the top of this consolidation zone, what does it do? It drops. It drops. It drops. It drops. So if we make our way back up to that high and that consolidation again, what can we expect? We can expect for price to potentially drop. Not saying it's guaranteed, but we can expect price to potentially drop from this area, and we could be in this consolidation for however long, the market decides. Now, once we get an impulse breaker structure, that will tell us that we're no longer in this consolidation no more, that we can then target these highs that, I'm referencing up here. But we would need a correction and then a continuation first. But without that, then, you trade the highs and the lows of consolidation. You never want to try to just assume that price is going to break until it breaks it. Same thing with the lows down here. If you selling, sell it to down here at maximum because we in the consolidation. Sell it down here to maximum. Why? Because every time price came to this low, pushed up, pushed up, pushed up. So if price was to make its way back to these lows again, we can expect price to potentially push up. In the moment that we get a break underneath this with a brand new impulse, correct, then we can look for sales long term down. But right now we're just in a consolidating area, so we have to be very mindful of those things, right? Now coming down to H1, here is this fib for H4 though. Let me fix it. So coming down to H1, we can see that we had like a weird structure. This ain't really the best, but let me take a look. Yeah, low, lower, high, lower, low, lower, high. We could argue that this is a lower high point, but I would classify that as a lower time frame structure. So I'm gonna just classify this as the last higher low. The last lower high. This was a breaker structure here. And then we can get rid of this. We don't need that no more. This broke this high with a brand new impulse. Price began to pull back. So now on our H1 fib, point A to point B, we need to see if price is going to maintain and continue to print new highs from this area, or based off our smaller time frames, which I'll go down here in a second, we can potentially see a lower retracement. So I'm putting this zone here because there's a 1 hour zone, and I want to see how price potentially reacts from this area, right? And then let me get rid of this trend line. I don't like this anymore because price is cutting through. So let me adjust this to such. And then, yeah, I like this one a lot better. All right, cool. So based off of this, right, we need to understand that, hold on, we could have a trend line. And it's like, when y'all see me clear off my chart like this, it's because I need to see clearly. Like, obviously I got a lot of shit on the chart, so sometimes it's kind of hard to see. But you can see this was a 1 hour trend line break and retest. This point going through here, break, retest. Now, there's a chance that this can trickle down into this area again before pushing up. And that's exactly what I honestly see. Based off of the smaller time frames, in 15, we can see that we were in this temporary uptrend. So we had, oh shit, wrong thing. Hold on. We had these lows. Then we created new higher highs. Hold on. Yeah, new higher highs and higher lows. And then we had this high, this higher low, this higher high. Just like NASDAQ, we had a break of this structure. So therefore, that's letting us know that we could potentially see this fall. This was a huge impulse on M15. We can see a continuation to the downside, but we got this zone right here. So that's why, like, I kind of annotated it, because we don't know if price is going to stop there, right? We don't know if price is going to stop there. So bare minimum, I'm watching price here. I want to see how price reacts in the zone. Watch price here. If we get bullish price action, then buy. If not, then anything underneath those lows, which is here, break, retest, and we could sell it down. And the furthest we'll sell it down to is this negative 27 TP right here. And I'm gonna remove that fib though, because I don't want too many fibs on there at one time. And then honestly, I'm gonna put this one, let's make this one gray. Oh shit, no, let's make that like that. All right, bet. So yeah, I will look for price to pull back into this area of support. I will definitely look for buys here, but if not, then we will look to sell it off. Now, like I said, on NAS, this ain't a bad area to sell from. Honestly, right now, this giving a good setup. Students, y'all know what to look for on this, but I wouldn't take this right now, because we just fresh into the session, and it's like US 30 not really the one to move too much right now. It might be some consolidation, but overall, this is like a decent setting up. But I will only carry it to that blue zone first to see if we react to that area. Jackie said, can you show where you have your 4-hour structure marked on gold? I already went over gold. Just hit the rewind on here. Cause we right at 8 o'clock. So just hit the rewind. I went over that, and then you can kind of compare and contrast, and then that way you can like pause it. Cause I walked through the structure on gold, based off of where we at right now. But this is what I have for US 30. Looking for this to respect this, and I'm gonna put an alert on this trend line. And then I'll kind of wait and see if we get that pullback to then give us a continuation to go higher from there. All right, so that is what I have, ladies and gents, for NASDAQ, gold, and NASDAQ, gold, and US 30. Like I was mentioning at the beginning of this call, make sure that y'all studying. And make sure that y'all practicing y'all strategies, right? Like, the reason why people close trades early is because they don't have a level of belief. They don't really understand. Like, they don't trust their strategies. They don't trust the things that they're doing. And then ultimately, if you don't trust the things that you're doing, you're ultimately gambling, right? So, with that being said, just make sure that you just put in the chart time. Put it, like I said at the beginning, it's a craft, you know. This is an art. You can even see last time we was on a call, we talked about this. This is a chart, but it's art, and that's why I call y'all chart runners, right? So we are chart runners, meaning that we run the charts. And in order for you to be a chart runner, you gotta be able to know what the market is telling you. You can't just be a chart runner and think, you know, like, oh, I know what I'm doing, and I don't. It's like, you gotta really treat this as a craft And when you treat it as a craft, I promise trading becomes a lot more fun, and it's a lot less stressful. You get stressed by trying to focus on the money, trying to hit home runs. But when you just look at it as a craft, like, okay, this is why the market is formulating in the way that it's formulating, then you fall in love with it. And it's like, like that saying on Pay in Full. He was like, I love the game, I love the hustle. It's like you get that feeling from it, right? So just take that with a grain of salt, everybody. And with that being said, I will see y'all all again next week. We'll be on regular schedule programming. Actually, hold on. Actually, I don't know, because I might go to an event on Sunday. So honestly, I'll let y'all know in the chat, because I might have an event on Sunday. But if I do need to cancel it, I'll just put the breakdown in the Telegram chat like I always do for y'all. And then I got some videos that I'm gonna film this week for YouTube on my other channel, my main channel. I'll put those on there, and then I'll drop some trading videos in this channel as well. That's just like strictly charts. None of that like camera vlog style. It'll just be like literally all charts. That's what this channel is for. So with that being said, I hope everybody has a good week, a blessed week ahead. Y'all go out there and kill it, because if you on this call, you're a part of my tribe, and y'all all are the Chart Runners family, and I love y'all. So y'all make sure y'all do what y'all gotta do to be successful this week, and I will see y'all all again next week.